The world today is drowning in a flood of noise voices from every direction. Words upon words, messages, images, opinions, fears, and anxieties that come like waves crashing against the soul. We are surrounded by an unrelenting storm of negativity. You feel it when you wake up. You feel it when you look at the news. You feel it when you scroll through the endless screens filled with the worries of man. The voices of the world grow louder, shouting confusion, doubt, anger, despair. And yet, in the midst of all this, there is still a voice that speaks. It is the voice that spoke before there was a world. The voice that said, "Let there be light." And the darkness had no choice but to flee. That voice has not grown silent. It has not lost its power. It still speaks, but it is not heard by all. Only the chosen will hear him. You see, my friend, God does not shout above the storm. He whispers beneath it. He speaks in the stillness, in the silence that the world has forgotten how to find. The world screams, God whispers, and the question is not whether God is speaking. The question is, are we listening? Are we able to hear his voice amidst the hurricane of negative emotions, doubts, fears, and lies that seek to drown us every single day? The enemy knows how to weaponize negativity. He crafts it like a skilled artisan, forging it into chains that bind the hearts of men and women. He uses fear to paralyze, anger to poison, bitterness to corrode, and despair to crush hope. These are not simply feelings, they are spiritual forces. They seek to drown out the voice of the Most High. The adversary is the prince of the air, filling the airwaves with deception, filling hearts with turmoil, filling minds with the noise of hopelessness. But in the eye of the storm there is a calm. In the midst of chaos there is a still small voice that says, "Be still, and know that I am God." The chosen are not those who have no battles. The chosen are not those who never face storms. The chosen are those who, when the waves rise, when the winds howl, choose to seek the voice of the one who calms the storm. It was not in the earthquake, it was not in the fire, it was not in the wind that Elijah heard him. It was in the still small voice. And so it is now. God speaks not according to the noise of the world, but according to the stillness of heaven. The chosen know how to enter that stillness. They know how to shut out the noise. They know how to turn their eyes away from the swirling clouds of negativity and fix them on the one who sits enthroned above the flood. You see, every negative feeling is a call to listen more closely. When anxiety rises, it is not a sign that God is absent. It is a call to press in, to draw near, to listen for the whisper that says, "Do not fear, for I am with you." When despair knocks, it is not the final word. It is the enemy's last desperate attempt to block out the word that speaks life. When anger flares, it is a signal that the flesh is rising, but the spirit is calling. The chosen are those who learn to discern these moments not as defeats, but as opportunities to hear him more clearly. The world has been conditioned to react to negativity with more negativity, but the chosen have been called to respond differently. They respond with faith. They respond with worship. They respond by entering the secret place, the holy place where his voice is not drowned, but magnified. And there, in that place, the negative feelings lose their power. The storm still rages outside, but inside there is peace that surpasses understanding. Because the voice of God is not silenced by the storm, it is revealed in it. The chosen understand that God's voice often comes not to remove the storm, but to speak within it. The storm may remain, but the chosen emerge unshaken, because they have heard the voice of the one who commands the winds and waves. They have heard the one who says, "Peace, be still," not only to the storm around them, but to the storm within them. The enemy would have you believe that your negative emotions are a wall between you and God. But the truth is this: they can become a doorway. Every fear can be an invitation to greater trust. every doubt can become an opportunity for deeper faith. Every sorrow can birth a new measure of his joy. The chosen know this secret. They know that in the deepest valley his voice becomes clearest. That when all other voices fall silent, the voice of the shepherd leads them. And so, in this hour, God is speaking. The world may not hear him, the multitudes may be deafened by the clamor of their own anxieties. But to the chosen, to those who will enter the secret place, to those who will fix their eyes on him and not on the storm, he will speak. And they will hear, the battle is not around you, the battle is not your circumstances. The true battle is within. The struggle that rages each day is not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, powers, and the rulers of darkness that seek to take ground, not in the world outside, but in the landscape of your mind. The chosen understand this. They know that the most dangerous battlefield is not out there. It is in here. The war is waged in thoughts, in feelings, in emotions, in the silent chambers where no one sees but God. And it is there that the adversary comes with his weapons: fear, discouragement, bitterness, anger, shame, guilt, and despair. These are the arrows he fires into the heart of man. From the very beginning, the enemy knew where to strike. In the garden, he whispered into Eve's mind, not her body. He planted the seed of doubt, questioning God's word, twisting truth into confusion. And from that moment, humanity has been locked in this war of the mind. The enemy cannot create. He cannot speak life. He only distorts, perverts, and deceives. His power lies in getting you to agree with the lie, to give room in your mind for the seeds of destruction. But the chosen are called to a different way. They do not war according to the flesh. They do not fight with weapons of this world. The chosen take every thought captive to the obedience of Messiah. Every thought, because even one thought can open the door. One thought of fear can give birth to paralysis. One thought of bitterness can grow into hatred. One thought of shame can evolve into chains that bind for years. The mind is like a field. What you allow to be planted will determine what you will harvest. The flesh is weak. It gravitates toward negativity. It feeds on offense, feeds on worry, feeds on the poison of what-ifs and if-onlys. Left unchecked, it will pull you down into the pit. But the chosen are not led by the flesh. They are led by the Spirit. The flesh whispers, "You are not enough," but the Spirit declares, "My grace is sufficient." The flesh says, "You will fail," but the Spirit says, "I have overcome." The flesh accuses. The Spirit intercedes. You see, the chosen have been given authority, not because they are stronger in themselves, but because they have surrendered to the one who is greater than the world. They do not overcome negative feelings by trying harder. They overcome by yielding. They do not fight fear with human courage, but with divine trust. They do not fight sorrow with distraction, but with joy that flows from his presence. They do not fight shame with denial, but with the blood that cleanses completely. The mind must be renewed daily. It is not a one-time event. The battle is constant, and so must be the renewing. The chosen wash their minds in the Word. They anchor their thoughts in truth. They meditate not on the news of man, but on the unchanging promises of God. As the world fills itself with anxiety, the chosen fill themselves with peace. As the world consumes the fruit of despair, the chosen partake of the fruit of the Spirit: love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Negative feelings will knock at your door. They always do. The difference is whether you open the door or stand firm. The chosen recognize the knock, but refuse the entry. When fear comes knocking, they answer with faith. When anxiety whispers, they respond with His word. When bitterness seeks a foothold, they release forgiveness. When sorrow presses in, they lift their voice in praise. The enemy is disarmed when the chosen refuse to engage on his terms. The battle for the mind is won in the secret place. It is there, in prayer, that strongholds are broken. It is there, in communion with God, that lies are exposed. It is there, in the stillness before His throne, that peace is restored. The chosen are not those who never feel negative emotions. They are those who refuse to let those emotions define them. They rise above, not because they are mighty, but because they are anchored in the One who never changes, anchored in truth that never fails, anchored in promises that cannot be broken. The enemy trembles when he finds a believer who refuses to surrender the ground of the mind, because such a believer becomes unshakable, immovable, untouchable. The waves may rise, but the house stands firm because it is built on the rock. The winds may howl, but the foundation remains unbroken. The darkness may advance, but the light within cannot be extinguished. The chosen are those who, though surrounded by a world that feeds on negativity, walk in victory. They hear the voice of God above the storm. They walk not according to the flesh, but according to the Spirit, and in that walk they overcome. From the beginning, God has always made a separation. He separated light from darkness, the waters from the dry land, the clean from the unclean, the holy from the profane, the righteous from the wicked. And still, even now, He separates those who are His from those who are not. Not all will hear Him, not all will discern His voice. For though God is speaking, only the chosen will hear. And who are the chosen? They are those who have been set apart. They are those who have been consecrated, not by their own worth, but by their surrender. Holiness is not an option for them. It is the requirement to hear. The world is filled with many who desire the blessings of God, who want His favor, who seek His miracles, but few who desire His holiness. Yet it is holiness that opens the ears to hear Him. It is not that God refuses to speak. It is that the noise of compromise drowns out His voice. The chosen are those who are willing to be different, who are willing to be set apart, to walk a narrow path when the masses choose the wide one. They are those who cleanse their hearts, who turn from the defilements of this world, and who hunger not for what pleases the flesh, but what pleases the Spirit. The closer you draw to God, the more His light exposes what must be surrendered. The chosen are not those who have no sin, but those who refuse to make peace with it. They do not justify it. They do not hide it. They bring it into the light, that it may be burned away by His refining fire. The enemy works tirelessly to entangle God's people in the snares of impurity, bitterness, pride, and secret sin, for he knows that these will muffle the voice of God. A heart weighed down with compromise cannot discern the whisper of heaven, but a heart purified becomes a vessel through which God can speak clearly. The world will tell you that holiness is outdated, irrelevant, unnecessary. But the kingdom of God operates by a different law. Holiness is the mark of the chosen. Without holiness, no one will see the Lord. Without holiness, the ears grow dull, and the soul drifts into the fog where the voice of God becomes faint. The chosen do not pursue holiness to earn God's love. They pursue it because they have encountered His love. They have seen His majesty, and nothing else will satisfy. When you allow compromise into your life, it's like static interfering with a signal. The voice is still being broadcast, but you cannot hear it clearly. Every unrepented sin, every unyielded area, every idol of the heart creates interference. The chosen are those who will not settle for a distant, distorted voice. They will lay down anything that stands in the way. They will sacrifice what the flesh desires to receive what the Spirit offers. The world may call them extreme, but the kingdom calls them faithful. The adversary does not mind if you are religious. He does not mind if you attend services, if you speak of God, as long as you remain compromised, as long as you are divided in heart. But the chosen are those who go beyond appearance. They are those who seek purity, not for the approval of man, but for the pleasure of God. They walk in the fear of the Lord, knowing that He is holy and that they have been called to reflect that holiness. Holiness is not isolation, it is intimacy. The more set apart you are, the closer you draw to the heart of God. And the closer you draw, the clearer His voice becomes. In the secret place, where distractions are silenced, where the noise of this world fades, His whisper breaks through. And what is whispered in secret will one day be shouted from the rooftops. The chosen know that hearing God's voice is not about having spiritual experiences, it's about having a surrendered life. The times we live in are marked by deception. Many voices claim to speak for God, but only those who walk in holiness will discern truth from lie. Only the chosen will not be led astray. In the days ahead, the ability to hear His voice will not be a luxury, it will be a necessity. The chosen are being prepared even now. The call to holiness is not a call for the few, it is a call for all who would belong to Him. The door is open, but few will walk through it. The enemy will tempt you to hold on to things that defile you, whispering that it's too hard, that you are not strong enough. And he's right. You are not strong enough in yourself, but the Spirit within you is. The chosen rely not on their strength, but on His. They fall, but they rise again. They stumble, but they press on. And as they walk in surrender, the voice of God grows ever clearer, ever stronger, leading them through the darkness, guiding them through the storm. And so, even now, God is calling. His voice is speaking, but only the chosen will hear. There is a mystery, a weapon given to the chosen, one that the world neither understands nor values. It is not a weapon forged of steel or crafted by the hands of men. It is not loud or violent in the way of the world's battles. And yet it shatters chains, tears down strongholds, and silences the accuser. It is the weapon of praise and thanksgiving. It is the key to overcoming the storms of negative feelings. It is the sound that rises from the hearts of the chosen, even when the world collapses around them. The enemy knows the power of this weapon, which is why he wars so fiercely to keep God's people trapped in despair, bitterness, and complaint. If he can steal your praise, he can cloud your vision. If he can fill your mouth with murmuring, he can darken your heart. But when the chosen refuse to surrender their praise, even in the valley, even in the midnight hour, the enemy is defeated. The prison doors open, the chains fall, and the darkness flees. This is not a theory. It is the pattern of the kingdom. When Paul and Silas sat in that prison, their bodies beaten, chained in the darkest dungeon, they had every reason to sink into despair. Every voice of the flesh, every voice of negativity was surely screaming at them to give in to hopelessness. But instead, in that midnight hour, they lifted their voices not in complaint, not in fear, but in praise. They sang hymns to God while their wounds still bled, while their chains still bound them, and then the earth shook. The prison was shaken to its foundations, the doors flung open, and every chain was loosed. The power was not in their circumstances changing. The power was in their praise rising. The chosen understand that praise is not a reaction, it is a weapon. It is not given after the victory, it is declared before the victory is seen. It is the sound of faith. It is the declaration that God is sovereign even when the storm has not yet passed, that He is good even when the outcome is uncertain. When you praise in the midst of the storm, you declare to the enemy, to the darkness, and to your own soul that your God reigns. Thanksgiving, too, is not simply politeness. It is a force that shifts the atmosphere. When you give thanks in all circumstances, you tear down the altars of fear and build an altar to faith. Thanksgiving opens the gates of His presence. Enter His gates with thanksgiving and His courts with praise. The chosen do not wait for everything to be perfect before giving thanks. They give thanks because they know that God is working even in what they cannot yet see. The enemy thrives in the soil of ungratefulness. Bitterness takes root when gratitude dries up. Anxiety grows when thanksgiving is silenced. Fear multiplies when praise is withheld, but the chosen cultivate the opposite soil. They water the ground with praise. They plant the seeds of thanksgiving, and they reap a harvest of peace that surpasses understanding. This is how they overcome the flood of negative feelings, not by denying the reality of their trials, but by choosing a higher reality, that God is still enthroned. When you praise in the face of fear, you declare that fear does not rule you. When you give thanks while walking through sorrow, you proclaim that sorrow will not be your master. When you worship in the shadow of uncertainty, you exalt the one who holds your future. Praise lifts you above the storm. Thanksgiving lifts your eyes from the problem to the provider. And when your eyes are fixed on him, the storm may rage, but you stand unshaken. There are times when praise is easy, when the sun shines, when the prayers are answered, when the path is smooth. But the praise that shakes the gates of hell is the praise that rises from the pit. It is when tears still flow, but the voice still sings. It is when the breakthrough has not yet come, but the song of victory is already declared. The chosen have learned to sing songs in the night, for they know that dawn is coming. Even the angels marvel at this mystery, for they praise in the fullness of heaven, but the chosen praise in the shadows of a broken world, declaring by faith what they cannot yet see with their eyes. That praise becomes a fragrant offering, rising before the throne of God like incense, and God inhabits the praises of his people. Where he inhabits, no darkness can remain. The enemy cannot silence a heart that chooses to praise. He can attack your circumstances, but he cannot chain your worship unless you let him. And when the chosen refuse to surrender their song, the enemy's schemes collapse. Praise is your victory cry. Thanksgiving is your declaration of war against the spirit of despair. And as you lift your voice, the heavens move. Even now, in this hour, God is seeking those who will worship him in spirit and in truth. The storm may rage, but the chosen will praise. The darkness may thicken, but the chosen will give thanks. And as they do, they will hear his voice, for only the chosen will hear.